Guys, this podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Wrestling Collector Shop. The next time you're looking to add the newest wrestling figures to your lineup, you've got to go to WrestlingCollectorShop.com. Started by collectors for collectors around the globe, Wrestling Collector Shop has been serving fans the latest and greatest in wrestling action figures since 2002. Whether you're looking for basics, elites, or ultimates, Wrestling Collector Shop should be your first stop the next time you're looking for wrestling figures. So make sure to go to WrestlingCollectorShop.com and use code SWOGGLE to save yourself 10% on your order. Again, that's 10% off with code SWOGGLE only at WrestlingCollectorShop.com. Hey guys, once again, as you see in the title, this is Small Talk. You guys have received 2 episodes in 7 days. 2 episodes in 7 days, 2 in a week's time. Very, very special Small Talk because of scheduling issues. Like I said last week, we couldn't quite get this one in the can in time for you to have on Thanksgiving, but we wanted to get it to you as soon as possible. We didn't want to take a week off. We're getting it to you right now. George, before I forget other things, what did we talk to him about?
Well, first things first, got to give credit where credit is due. That was a very last-minute intro, outro that you had to do last week for the Finley episode, so kudos to you, sir. With that, we want to remind everybody that this podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Wrestling Collector Shop and that you can save 10% on your order when you go to WrestlingCollectorShop.com and use code SWOGGLE on all forms of social media at Dylan Postl. That is the man himself. You can follow him, see what towns he's making appearances in, and make sure to also follow at Going Postl Pod, YouTube.com/Dylan Postl for the video versions of this show, as well as a ton of video content that Dylan produces, video diaries, unboxings, and more. DylanPostl.com for all things Swoggle, ProWrestlingTees.com/Swoggle, SwoggleAuction.com for a free $10 Whatnot credit. Dylan, when is that next Whatnot stream?
You're listening to this on Wednesday, December 4th. The next Whatnot will be next Wednesday, December 11th. Guys, SwoggleAuction.com. There is going to be a signed Elias item. There is going to be a signed Ahmed Johnson figure. There is going to be a signed Ricky the Dragon Steamboat figure and a whole lot more. Guys, you're not going to want to miss this one. This is going to be the most fun Whatnot to date just because of the items that we have.
The last Whatnot stream of the year.
Last one of the year.
And finally, guys, of course, you can go and check out the exclusive merchandise for this show, Game Marks Pod, and all things PodXchange over at PodXchange.shop, PodXchange. But hey, Dylan, today's episode is all about your sit down with one Jonathan Coachman.
Coach and I always had a really, really good relationship, a really fun relationship. Literally since day one of me being on the road, I remember not like connecting with him, but just being buddies. And then I was always on SmackDown and that, so I wasn't around him very much. And then when I was on Raw and the Vince storyline especially, we worked together. We talk about it in the interview. We worked together literally every week around the world. He's awesome, man. I always felt like, especially when he came back a few years ago, he didn't need to come back. He wanted to come back because he really still enjoys professional wrestling. And it shows. Not only in this, but like in his podcast, everything he does, he has such a passion for pro wrestling. It really, really shines. And it's great. I love it, man. I love talking pro wrestling with people that actually like pro wrestling.
It's even better when someone that you traveled the world with.
Yeah. It makes it really easy.
Well, Dylan, there's only one thing left to do before we roll to that wonderful interview you did with Jonathan Coachman. And what is that?
Ad break. Are you a fan of Disney, Pixar, Jurassic Park, The Office, or even WWE? Or maybe you just want a sleek and comfortable patterned shirt? Then you need to check out Roosevelts.com. RSVLTS.com today. Roosevelts makes the most eye-catching and comfortable shirts going today. Whether it's button-ups or polos or hoodies or even hats and everything in between, Roosevelts truly has something for everyone. Made for those with the love of sports, pop culture, and so much more. And above all else, having a kick-ass time. This clothing is for the bold and fun, for those who dare mighty things. Roosevelts.com. Check them out. Hey guys, once again, another small talk. As you see in the title, he's an incredible sports analyst, an amazing commentator, a fellow Raw general manager, and probably my greatest foe in all of my time in WWE. The coach, Jonathan Coachman. Hello. Hi, friend.
It is so great to see you again. I told somebody today that I was doing this, and I said, without a doubt, and it's not close, my greatest rivalry in the WWE was with you. It's not close. We literally took it all over the world. We took it all over the world.
That's the funny part is, like, I was thinking about it, and I was doing some notes just because I like to, my memory is a lot of
I'm the worst.
Concussions.
So me too. I'm the worst.
So as I was doing, I was like, man, we did so many, like, not even just in ring, but backstages and all of that. And it was just the chemistry that you and I had literally showing up every week and just being like, what are we doing this week? And then waiting till probably 4:00 and then having to shoot at 4:30 and figure all of it out. It was always fun because I always say, like, you were always up for anything, and that started very early with you. Like, not just with me, but you transitioned so quickly from the backstage interviewer to a character of sorts. Did you feel that transition kind of immediately?
I did, and first of all, I think that people can look at what you and I did as a reason why there's a lot of criticism today. Is we did show up and we were willing to do anything, but also we had to embrace that with each other, which we absolutely did. When I decided or was asked by Vince to become a character, it was really and most people who aren't in the business don't understand this, but Vince wanted all of his backstage interviewers to be smaller than the superstars that we were interviewing. He wanted them to be bigger than life, right? So when I got caught on camera doing a tag team interview and you see me with my legs completely, Vince was like, we can't do this anymore. We got to, But the one thing he did say was, well, you've got to be willing to get your ass kicked. You got to be willing to get physical, and you've got to be willing to go to house shows and work on the craft when the cameras are not on. So I'm very proud, man, of the work I did to be able to get in the room with you guys, get in the ring with you guys, make it look believable, but also be respected enough that once I made that transition, that and anybody that's been in the business knows once you put your foot through the ropes, that's a completely different animal now. Now you're looked at different, you're respected different. And so, I felt that right away because the first thing I did, was attack Shane at SummerSlam, and then Stone Cold comes out. That was the first thing I did, right? I said all the time, I said, what do you do? Either you're attacking the boss's son at the time. I mean, there is no room for error on that. So four chair shots later, we were off and running.
But even before that, I mean, the stuff with Rock really kind of just antagonizing you and making you more than just generic backstage interviewer. You know what I mean? Like that's what I really kind of watching you. I saw this is different. This isn't the typical thing. And what did you feel just immediately like, oh, this is something different than just holding a microphone?
So I always knew that my personality was probably bigger than just being a backstage interviewer. Yeah. Because at that time, that's what you were. And if you were lucky enough, maybe get in a funny bit with Rock, whoever else, but I look back at, guys like Kevin Kelly and what he's most known for, standing there with his finger up his nose, and I love Kevin, but that's, Michael Cole has a ton of embarrassing ones before he finally got the respect that he deserves. So I think for me, that starting with, The Rock, January 8th, 2000, that was my first time on WWE television. And I think they saw it in me as well, that we can do a little bit more with Coach than we can maybe with somebody else. That's why the very first time that I was on TV with The Rock, we reversed it. And instead of him going, hey, who are you? It doesn't matter who you are. We did it at the end. So the crowd's like, oh, maybe Coach respects this guy. And so I think from that first time, and I look back at all the things we did, and I'm like you, there's a lot of things that I forget, or I have the times mixed up on when they happened and when we did certain things. But I knew, I could feel that turning me into a character from a backstage interviewer was going to be something not only new and revolutionary and historic, but then we could start doing things with me that you couldn't do with other people, like me ring announcing at house shows. So then heels could then win. And then, because as we know, you always want the crowd to go home happy, right? Yep. So now heels can win, and then I would get beat up. That adds another layer to what we were able to do, which is why house shows or live events started to push the TV product, as opposed to back in the day when the TV product would push the live event. So I'm pretty proud of the role that I was able to play.
That's enough talking about Dwayne. That's enough. Let's talk about the real meat on the bone here. Easily, you talk about things that we forget. The one I cannot forget ever that is the most talked about was overseas. You talked about this early, how we even brought our feud and our rivalry overseas. London, I believe, and me blowing you up under said ring. It was just fun. And like you said, to be able to do it every week on TV and then do it overseas on TV and still get a reaction about it from the overseas crowd was so much fun.
I can't even describe how much fun those things were. And when we were going through that particular skit, it wasn't a Royal Rumble, no feet on the ground moment, but there was certainly an element of, if this doesn't work, we're going to look really, really stupid out here because you're going to keep doing this. And then it's going to be like the bus with Stone Cold. The whole crowd is going to happen. It's going to happen. Yeah. And also, I think that was the first time that I figured out how we snuck guys under the ring.
Yes.
Right? I never knew how we did it. And that was like 6 years in. So, boy, was that fun. And the crowd popped huge on it. And that was, I think, the greatest part with you and I, is that people got to a point that they couldn't wait to see how you were going to get over on me next. And that was awesome. The food fight that we had overseas, I don't know why we did a lot of food fights overseas. You don't remember this? The food fight overseas?
Food fight.
Me and you chased me everywhere.
Throw it the back. Yes. Throw it the back. Oh, my God. Why was there? Is it? Yeah. All the food fights.
Remember it, so it started, and then we went through and had everybody in catering.
I had a big wheel. I rode the big wheel. Yes. Yeah. I do know.
And you're jumping over the tables, and you stopped.
This is different. This was the same night as the blow up.
Was it the same night?
I'm almost
It might have been this. It was definitely in Europe.
Because then we come out. I go under. You pull out the plunger. It doesn't work. You go with the wires. I come out. I blow you up. Yeah, it's the same night.
Oh, my God. We really do have really bad
horrible
memories.
Memory. Yes.
But that was so much fun. And for people who don't know this, when you're doing a food fight like that, it's one take. It's even though the show was taped, because it's always ahead of time, but man, that was one take. And my God, wasn't it kind of cool to have that whole group, probably 30 people, waiting on us for once? Like we were the stars of that particular shoot.
I think about that here and there, and it's like you don't realize, because you do these, or you do a backstage like that. You've been a part of a million of them where you're just a walking, the guy in the Scorsese film just drinking coffee in the back. But you've had a million of those. But this one was about us. Like everyone had to be at their marks, just waiting on us to come into the shot and then interact around us. So it's built for us, which. it's insane to even think about.
I've always wanted to ask you this, and I know this is your show.
Yeah. I don't care.
But you were, I think there's a lot of reasons why I'm so proud of the work that we were able to do.
Yeah.
And also being able to, I talk about a lot on today's shows where talent doesn't have the creativity to come up with anything on their own. So they sit there and wait. And for you, I've always been incredibly proud of what we've done because historically you did something that was never done before. And when they presented you, hey, here's a full-time contract and you were traveling every week, that allowed us to do those things. Because before, if you're not a full-time talent, you're not at TV every single week. Yeah. And so that had to be a really cool moment for you, no?
It back in the 80s there was Little Beaver and Little Tokyo and them, and then there was Dink, but for the longest time there wasn't a contracted person of my stature forever. And then to do that, and then especially I came in with the Finley stuff, and then I went to Raw with the Vince angle, which was the biggest thing to ever happen to my career. And then we went in, with that angle, we did all of the segments with you and I, and every week, because as we know, they might write something all weekend and then it doesn't happen Monday, or they might write something Monday morning, tell you it's going to happen, and then it's completely changed or canceled. So just showing up to TV going, what am I doing today? I know there might be this idea, probably not going to happen. It'll probably be something completely different, if anything, but like showing up to TV and going, whoa, I have a feeling I'm going to be doing something because of this angle, but who knows what it's going to be. Was just a crazy thought every week, and then working. I have it in my notes, like working beside Vince every week, literally as his child, and then having you as my handler, my babysitter of sorts in these segments. It's crazy to think about. Like that kind of thing didn't hit me until recently. Like the most powerful person, the most powerful person in wrestling history, working alongside of him, and then you being along with us for all of these backstages. I was thinking about the wedding with Bobby or Crystal and Teddy's wedding, and that was literally written, but so much of that was written for things for you and I to do during the wedding. And to break it up, I run under Crystal's dress. You get stuck under all of that stuff. Me with the phone book and the Lucky Charms and dancing and just being front row for the wedding on the center stage for the camera on SmackDown. We were doing our stuff on Raw, but they had us move to go to SmackDown for that. It's just stuff like that I think about. Like, it's crazy to me.
That's really, really cool. And for people who are watching right now to understand how you feel when you're backstage as far as being over is when they would take you to the multiple shows, when you would do Raw and you would do SmackDown. And when you're a part of these big elaborate things, it was so incredibly cool when you have 25 guys that can main event WrestleMania, but yet they wrote stuff for me and you. That says something,
exactly.
man. That says something, right?
Multiple segments a week and that kind of thing. Making sure we have all these segments. We have John Cena doing this. We have Randy Orton doing this. We have the Triple H doing this. But what are Coach and Hornswoggle going to do? And they have to be included. It's crazy. It's insane.
It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Right before the infamous blowing up segment, we also had a match. It was scheduled as Carlito and you against me in a handicap match, where I would then pay off APA to come out and help me. Where then, for the finish of said match, I saw the most vicious clothesline from JBL I probably ever saw in history. And you just ate it. You literally just ate it. And it was one of those things where I was like, man, Coach is up for anything. Literally anything. And never like nope, I'm not feeling it. Was there besides that moment, were there ever ones where you go, I was like, oh man, this is going to be awful, but I got to do it. I got to do it. It's part of the gig. Can you think of part of why I'm so this is going to suck?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's a lot of the reasons why I'm so conflicted a lot of the time when I talk about our time there is, Vince did a really good job of protecting me, so to speak. But then there were times where I wasn't protected, so to speak. I do remember one time after Goldberg came over And, it was, Goldberg in real life was pissed that he didn't have his own dressing room because a lot of those WCW guys, they were given their own dressing room. So there was kind of this rib that they would have him have his own dressing room. Remember this? And then on the show, he would have his own dressing room, but not in real life. And so I always thought that was kind of funny. So they wanted me to go to his dressing room to get a word from him and walk in, and then I would then come flying out of the room. Well, they were supposed to get the door and get it off its hinges so that the door would just kind of fly open. It was one of those really hard, thick doors.
Yep.
And so the stunt guy, whoever it was at the time, I can't remember.
I guarantee it would have been Props Richie. I guarantee.
Who was the one that came over from WCW? He did a lot of movie stuff. Ellis, yeah. So I think it was Ellis. I think it was Ellis. I love Ellis, by the way. But they couldn't get the door off the hinges. So we're standing there, and Vince is standing there with me and Goldberg, and we're kind of trying to figure out how is this going to work because they wanted to show that he was pissed off. So he goes, you know what, Vince? I could probably still get Coach to, knock the door down without it's off its hinges. And the camera guy's standing there, sound standing there. We're all looking at each other going, whoa, whoa. And I'm going, wait a second. That's my shoulder. That's the side of my head. And this is one of those old school doors at one of those old arenas that is like this thing. And I remember Vince looked up at Goldberg and says, no, you won't. Just killed it right there. And I was like,
okay. I thought you said he said that as a challenge. Okay, so he shut it down, thankfully.
He shut it down. So what we kind of did is I left the door kind of open and you couldn't see my hand on it. So then I go in, I stand there for, whatever it was, 5 or 10 seconds. And then I threw myself out of the door and it looked awesome once we aired it. But I remember I thought my shoulder was going to be. So that's one of the times. But there was many times that, and I take offense to two things. When people use the word fake, once I got in the ring, it started I understood why the boys and the ladies, why they get so pissed off at the word fake. But then also how tough that I proved to myself that I was, because there was never one move that I said no to taking. And there's a lot of moves I didn't want to take. The clothesline from hell was one of those moves that I didn't want to take. But you do what you do, and as long as you take a pretty good bump, you're going to be safe. It's the guys that don't know how. That's a simple flat back, and just you got to stay up there, and you just got to take it right across the chest. If you don't, it looks like crap. Then the next one you take from JBL is going to be twice as bad. Too. Yeah, way worse.
Feel way worse. Were there other ones that you can think of back, even not even shit, this is gonna suck, but now looking back, it was oh wow, for what I knew, for what how I wasn't trained to do this, essentially, that you got through it and it went really, really well.
I think my first pay-per-view match. Because I always trained not with the idea of working matches. It was with the idea of taking bumps when it got to a point that the crowd, right now, can you imagine Dom not taking bumps? It's just when you get to a point that you get so much heat, and I had a lot of heat, you got to be willing to get your ass kicked or else there's no payoff. And eventually the fans are like, oh, he's just going to talk and it doesn't matter. So that's all it was supposed to be. So when I had my first pay-per-view match against Tajiri, I'll never forget, we all flew back to Stanford. I damn near missed my flight, and we're down at the building that we would train in, and it was Dean Malenko, me, and Tajiri. And I'm like, 12 minutes? How the hell am I going to wrestle for 12 minutes? And I'll never forget that I walked up to kind of break the ice, and I said it to Jerry, who, to this day, he spoke English. He acted like he didn't. Come on.
The worst faker in the world. Regal would tell me stories all the time about if he didn't want to do something, he didn't know a lick of English. If he was all for it, he spoke like William Shakespeare.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's exactly who he was. And I said to him, hey, Tajiri, I said, as long as I get my shit in, we're going to be just fine. No issues. And he looks back at me and goes, you have shit? And Dean Malenko says, no, he is the shits. He is the shits. And we all popped because you know how Dean is. You know, he's the drizzling shits. And Tajiri also popped. And I was like, wait a second. If you don't understand what we're saying, how are you laughing at that? But he was great. We had some great backstage with him misting me. And I remember the pre-tape we had where we had to buy 5 of the same shirt. Because you never know how many, those are type of things that I think back on and go, man, we really had to train for those. But that's another one. I mean, there's a million of them. I was in Afghanistan, and part of the reason that I went that year because I could do everything, and they would have 3 groups of 6, and they needed an extra match, so they said, hey, you're going to wrestle Ric Flair on the Christmas, tribute with the troops. I walk into the locker room, I go, hey, Rick. They said they need like 8-9 minutes. He goes, and he's literally lacing up his boots. He goes, all right, cool, let's call it out there. And I remember standing there going, who's he talking to? So I said, and I quote, Rick, I am not Shawn Michaels. We will not be calling it out there. We will go over it. And we did. And the finish was supposed to be the figure 4. I was so scared to get my foot above the knee that we ultimately called it the figure 2. Because my leg was like right here. Yeah. But when you think about it, right, Dylan, that I have a memory and a story to tell anybody that I wrestled Ric Flair, one of the 5 all-time greatest wrestlers or characters, whatever you want to call him, of all time. And I wrestled him outdoors in the desert in Afghanistan. And if I never would have become a character, that never would have happened. So those are the type of stories that I love to share or I love to retell because, man, that was super cool going from here in the United States all the way over there and wrestling Ric Flair in that particular ring.
Were you and are you more comfortable in the ring doing, the silly ha-ha and the matches, that kind of thing? Or compared to behind the mic at the commentary desk? If you, what one did you find tougher? Because obviously commentary, you have to be on for the whole show, essentially, for different segments. The match, you're on for 6 minutes. You know what I mean? So there's both. The challenges of both are very, very different.
They are. That's a great question, by the way. I thought you were going to ask me more comfortable wrestling or well, clearly we know what that answer would have been. So you swerved me. Very well done. To me, I'll take the word comfortable out and I'll put the word fun in because I had a lot more fun. Yeah, it was a lot more fun doing the in-ring stuff. Yeah. But and because comfortable, you got to remember, Vince is screaming in your ear. And so when you're doing 2 hours of commentary or 3 hours, God, can they please shorten these shows these days? When you're doing all of that and you're trying to tell the story, you get to a point where you are comfortable with that. I enjoyed because Vince loved those skits and he loved that type of stuff. And I always felt like I was going to be seen as better in his eyes. And that's one of the things I'm most disappointed in myself over, if I'm being honest, is I took so much of what Vince thought about me towards my self-worth in wrestling. And I think a lot of us did that. And I look back now and I go, that's one thing that I regret that I'm not proud of, that I wanted his approval for all of this crap so much that I probably did stuff that I shouldn't have done, to be honest, because I never said no. But I loved the character stuff way more than I loved doing commentary. And I think after so many years, it really started to show.
I think also Vince everyone's like was so eggshells, including me. I always was. Again, we talked about he's the most professional or the most powerful man in wrestling. He gave me my job. He can take it away even faster, obviously. So no one wants to ever challenge him unless you're up here. You know what I mean? And so you talked about like you said yes to everything instead of here and there. You could have brought the what if and he would be 90% of the time. He probably would have been, okay, like accepting of it.
Yep.
Probably done the Jedi mind trick and made you still believe his idea is better.
That's so true.
He would have accepted what you had to say and probably respected speaking up more than anything. more than just the yes, sir, I'll do it kind of thing.
There's no question about it. And that's part of the reason I'm so disappointed in myself.
Yeah.
And there was a time, the only time I ever said no to him was my wife at the time was pregnant with my daughter. And going to Afghanistan or Iraq every year, it was different, was supposed to be a, well, if you want to thing. It was supposed to be optional. If you don't feel comfortable going to a war zone, it's okay. At least that's what they told us. So that particular year, she was not comfortable, and my daughter was born in 2008. So this was December of 2007. I left in August of 2008, and whether or not this had a big part in me leaving, I'll never know. Looking back, did it? Probably. Because I chose not to go. And as you know, whenever you go overseas and you fly on an Army plane, you're in a C-130, a lot of background stuff. So they take your bag at like noon when you show up, and it's just waiting on the plane that night when you're flying out of South Carolina. And so I show up, and I think it was Mark Carano was at the back gate. He's like, hey, where's your bag? And I was like, I told you guys I wasn't going. And he's like, oh, we thought you were kidding. You've never said no. And I'll never forget whoever it was back there said that to me. You've never said no. I'm like, why would I joke about going to Afghanistan or Iraq? I wouldn't joke about that. And so they had to scramble because, you can't just add a guy to the manifest.
Correct.
So the next week, then you end up getting punished by Undertaker or Batista coming out and, shredding me courtesy of Vince. And I was so pissed. And I remember saying to myself, I've said yes all the time. For everything. 10 years, I've said yes to everything. Missed a lot of my family stuff. So when I say I'm very conflicted, I am, because I missed a lot of things that I wish I would have been there for.
Yeah.
Because I said yes to everything. But then when something very rarely that you wanted to happen wasn't happening, then they flipped it around and put it back on you. And that's why today I have a lot of conflicted feelings about that.
That's different that you bring it up, because people don't really think about that. People don't really think about saying yes sometimes to everything. Saying yes isn't a great thing, and that's where you can get taken advantage of. And then because when you exactly what you just said, when you do say no, it's challenged of like, why are you finally saying no? Why are you doing it? Like, you say yes to everything. You're okay with everything. Okay, well, what does that say about the other side? That's just like expecting a yes.
100%. And also at that time, and you had to feel this too, that with WCW basically going out of business, it's not like today where, and this might be coming to an end because Tony Khan has written so many checks, but there was nowhere for anybody to go and make the amount of money you were going to make in the WWE, even if they were underpaying you. Let's say you're making $150,000. There was no place else to go and make $150,000 in the wrestling business from 01 or 02 for several years. And so I guarantee you that played a factor in what they offered to us and how we reacted to it.
Exactly it. Exactly that. There was no other option to make that kind of money at all. So what are you going to do? Okay, I'm good with that. I'm good with, showing my ass, that kind of thing. Yeah, whatever. As I want this job. Otherwise, it's that or going back to a 9-to-5. And
exactly.
It's
and who wants to do that? There. And who can do that? That's the other thing that people don't realize is when you become a character in wrestling, you become that character to everybody. And I say to people all the time, they're like, why do they have to do Legends deals? Or I say, can you imagine at 55 years old, Ric Flair walking into a bank?
Yeah.
And asking for a regular job?
I worked at Target for a year and a half before I got hired by WWE. And I was 17 and 18 years old working at Target. That's all I know besides professional wrestling. Exactly, I know how to bite an ass and work at Target. Like, that's all I
can't
know.
do. And then how many people are going to stop you at Target and say, aren't you? Aren't you? Aren't you?
And how much is the mind fuck is that? Yeah, like it's just a complete mind fuck to go back to normal life.
Correct.
As when you were that. Like, and people truly don't realize that. And we're all guilty of it, of looking at, Legends and going, man, when are they just going to stop? They can't. They literally, physically, they should. Mentally, they cannot.
I have people ask me all the time, why does Ric Flair still post so much? You know, he's almost 80 years old. Why does this guy go and sign autographs at 72 years of age or whatever the case might be? I don't count anybody else's money, but in the wrestling business, for sure, I know this, that there is no 401k. There's never been a 401k. And for a lot of guys over the years, you have to bounce around and put a living together, and you sacrifice a lot of things in order to do that. And for every 50 people that make it to the WWE, there is 5 million out there that would love a chance to not have to go to independent shows and autograph shows all the time. But that's what all of the boys and all of the ladies love to do. It's what we love. It's what everybody has loved. So to be able to make a living at that and not have to deal with the aren't you questions is, I was talking with Tony Chimley. He's working at a Trader Joe's, and he loves it. He loves it. But I have people go, isn't that beneath him? To me, nothing is beneath anybody. You do what you have to do to live.
Before you were hired, you were doing that. So
Correct.
What makes you any different now, besides luck and opportunity? That's all that makes you different is a bit of luck and opportunity. There's nothing else that makes you different from that Dylan to current day Dylan. That's it. Literally, that is it.
I have anxiety all the time. All the time. I'll wake up in a panic. This is no lie. Because I think about all the things that had to go right in order for me to get to the WWE. Then I have a decade at ESPN, and now I've kind of started forging my own path with a couple of really good projects. So I'm kind of half in and half out. And I wake up all the time because I think about, man, how easily this could now go away. And at this age, you know, I'm still very young in the business, so to speak. But now we're on the backside. We got 30 years left, not 50 anymore, not, 55 anymore. And that's high anxiety for me because for so long when you're running, you're not thinking about that. But then when you're forging your own path and you go, man, if this went away, what would I do? And I've had a lot of those, this year I'm building my own businesses, and it's so much fun. Still work for the PGA Tour, still work for the PFL. All of that's fun. But now I'm motivated to not have to talk about or think about what we just mentioned and going back to that. And I think everybody has that anxiety in the wrestling business, don't they?
Have to. Otherwise, you're too comfortable and you think you're too highly of yourself. That's all it is.
100%.
The minute you get too comfortable, the minute you think, I'll be doing this forever, is the minute you think you should be doing it forever.
No doubt.
Shouldn't.
No doubt.
You talked about the Flair match over in Afghanistan. Yeah. Every interview I do on here, I like to talk about pinch me moments. I have had a million of them throughout my very, very lucky time doing this. What are some of your pinch me moments? I want to go, and for you, it's different. I want to go in WWE and then outside of WWE because you have had such a career.
Thank you.
In the sports world outside of WWE and the paths you've made for yourself and the opportunities you've been given. So both pinch me moments inside that really stand out and outside.
Bro, you're really, really good at this. You ask great questions. You set them up. Like you've swerved me 3 times already. I was like, oh, he's going here. No, we're going to go over here. And I absolutely love it because I basically only do this with friends now because I have so much of my own stuff and you never know. And I'm having such a good time. And you should be doing this for a living. We've got a show coming up. We need to talk.
But I would love to.
We are. We're actually behind the turnbuckle. We're going to be on Amazon Prime, DirecTV. We're going to have like a roundtable show to really get into cool discussions and also what's going on in the pro wrestling world right now. And that's going to start first of the year. So if you want to be a part of that, I would love to have you. Love to have you.
Zoom is always on, and I watch wrestling still to this day. Pinch me moment, Coach. Give me some.
All right, so WWE, this is a great question. So I have several. I'll make them quick. So the first one was 2 weeks after the first time I was on TV, and I mentioned when they launched WWF New York, and they, we had it was a restaurant in Times Square. They closed it down. 30,000 people showed up. Howard Finkel was supposed to get there and announce all of the limousines coming down. And I can still smell New York when I think about that night. And I'd only been living, in Stanford for a couple of weeks. And I get there, and they had all the entertainment people in a box. That's how they do it at these red carpet events and stuff.
Yep.
And they come, one of the WWE people, Coach, you got to get up there. They had built this high rise that all the talent was going to get up and talk to the masses. And they're like, you got to introduce the first car. Fink, God rest his soul, he's stuck in traffic. So I was like, who is it? And they're like, it's The Rock. So I get up there, and Dylan, I'll never forget it. It's 30,000 people saying, who are you? You suck. Get out of here. Don't know you. And I'm like, oh, I'm home, baby. I'm home. And all of a sudden I said, ladies and gentlemen, in the first car coming right at you, right down Broadway, is the most electrifying man in all of sports and entertainment. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the Brahma Bull. He is The Rock. And he gets out of that limousine, and he had just this combination red and black turtleneck, and he does this and the sunglasses. And I remember thinking to myself, this is the coolest human being on planet freaking Earth. And that night, he was the star of stars. Sugar Ray was the group that was playing, and it was an awesome, awesome night. And then you put a full button on it that you fast forward 7 years later, and The Rock had already left. He was already doing movies. Yep. I was in a big rivalry with Eugene. Things were hot. And I get a call, and they're like, hey, Coach, we just got a call from The Rock. And he would like to. He's in L.A. We're going to be in San Diego Monday. We're going to sneak him in and do a segment with you, Rock, and Eugene. Are you up for that? Have you ever gotten a call asking to work with The Rock and you say no? I said, yes, whatever we do, yes, I will do that. And I'll never forget, because it's a early start time. So it starts at, so it's the sun's still out or whatever the case might be. And we sneak him in, and we're going over the segment, and it's supposed to be 12 minutes. And this is when I truly knew that Triple H and The Rock do not get along. They don't like each other. I don't care what you watch on TV right now backstage. They don't like each other. And I said, Rock, this kind of feels, he's like, pause here, do this. And I said, this feels longer than 12 minutes. And the pinch me moment is this. We go out there, and Rock looked at me and goes, Coach, what have I always taught you? I said, well, you always taught me if it's really good, there's nothing that the boss can say. And that was kind of our thing, wasn't it? If you're going to go over time, you better make sure it's unbelievably good, or Vince is going to scream at you. So we went 25 minutes, 13 minutes over time. Yeah. Guess who was in the crossover segment? That the crossover segment is what got shortened.
I can only imagine.
Triple H had a match, crossover. So we were so he was furious, for one. So I remember when Eugene's walking back up the ramp and the crowd is yelling, they're calling me an asshole and all this stuff. I was like, man, I am nailing this. I am crushing this. And the only thing that I remember about it negatively is I hadn't shaved my head, so my hair was kind of like a chia pet, because at that point it didn't even know how to grow. And I remember Vince saying, this is serious. Take your hat off. Because I had that backwards Kango in the sun. Yep. I go, no. He goes, no, take it off. And I was like, I didn't shave today. Don't care. So I'm arguing with Vince right before my music hits to go out about my hat and my hair. True story. So I take it off, and when I watch it, I'm like, oh, my God, like patchy here. But as he's backing up, and I never did after this moment ever come out of character except for this moment. When they hit The Rock's music, and I encourage everybody to look it up on YouTube, 25-minute segment. He comes out in this blue and white sweatsuit, and I swear to God, I had the same thought, Dylan, that I had 7 years before in New York City. This is one of the, if not the coolest human being that God has ever created. And he came down, and that was kind of the full circle moment for Eugene as well, because he's very similar to me. He's very similar to you. Yeah. We all know him in real life to be an incredible human being. And he also defied the odds. And to have a moment like that for all three of us, that The Rock wanted to do with us, and for him to make friends with The Rock, and he had then met everybody, that's storyline. That's storytelling 101. And when The Rock came down, I swear to God, I'm getting goosebumps right now telling you about it. My mind is taking me back. It was only 60 miles from where I'm sitting right now in San Diego. And when people don't know somebody's going to be there, when there's a surprise element to it, the eruption, we saw it the other night with CM Punk, the War Games. That's what the business is built on. I don't understand fans that clamor, and they do so much work trying to figure stuff out instead of just enjoying what's right in front of them. Because that moment for me will always be my greatest wrestling memory and moment, and it was because The Rock wanted to do it, and that was awesome for me. Now, ESPN moment, and I know I'm talking way too long, so I apologize.
No.
My ESPN pinch me moment was very close to my family. They came out to visit. I had really broken down the walls. It was really hard for me to get that job. And now the floodgates have opened with WWE people that have gone to ESPN, but I was the first one, and it was not an easy process. We're at Christmas. All my family came out. I was super proud of myself. I said, hey, let's go take a tour of what we call the campus. It looks like a college campus when you walk on it. And I loved it. I was there for over a year. So we're walking through with my parents, my two sisters, my brother, and who walks around the corner right as we're walking into the studio? Magic Johnson. Jesus. And I remember, one of my heroes, I was 7 years old when he got out of college. No. 6 years old when he got out of college. And I played college basketball, and he could not have been nicer to my entire family. But that's how ESPN kind of was. It happened with The Rock several times. He would come on campus to promote a movie. So we had a lot of those pinch me moments, because if you're a huge sports fan, then that was the place to be. Now, the stars have realized, I don't want to go all the way to Bristol. It's 2 hours from nowhere. It's 2 hours from New York. It's 2 hours from Boston. So you don't see a lot of the stars like you used to when I was there. But, man, at any point you could walk around the corner and you would see a different star.
Like the ESPN, the Sports Center commercials.
Yes.
It's like those Sports Center commercials. Yeah, where they're just running into randoms or a mascot. Yeah.
And that's real. They would set up the whole shoot, and you shut down half of the cafeteria or something. And then you'd stand over there, you look around the corner, oh, who's that? Oh, Arnold Palmer's over there. Oh, Jack Nicklaus is over there. That was a normal thing at ESPN on a random Tuesday.
That's awesome. Hell yeah.
It was awesome.
Coach, seriously, this has been so fun and so easy. I love it because exactly what you said. You only do these with buddies because you've been doing it forever. I only have buddies on here because I only want to talk to my friends. So that's all I care about. So thank you, man, for real. We have to do this because it's what everyone does. You're doing 90,000 things right now. Let's hear about them. What are you doing?
Oh, I appreciate it, and this will not be the last time you are, because I'm dead serious about bringing you on our other show very soon.
I'm in.
That's going to be an incredible brand, and it's already happening. So we're excited about that. We have a lot going on right now. So when I left CBS a year ago, I said I talked to a lot of people, a lot of big time people. They said, Coach, if you don't do your own thing now, you're never going to do it, and they're absolutely right. So this year we have spent building. It's been the most difficult but the most rewarding year of my entire life. Not close. So this brand you see behind us, Behind the Turnbuckle, that's our pro wrestling and MMA brand. You can follow us on YouTube, social media. We're launching first of the year on Amazon Prime, on DirecTV, on YouTube TV. That will be the new show that I'm talking to you about in full transparency. But we have several shows during the week. We also do interviews. Driving the Line is our daily sports betting brand. We're already on DirecTV and Amazon Prime. So signing those distribution deals has been huge for us. Because it's our baby. It's our thing. And then I also, the PGA Tour is expanding what they do. I'm one of their main play-by-play guys because I love golf, and I left ESPN. And one of my goals was to kind of change the game from the inside out. And golf, no matter what network you're talking about, they need more diversity. There's a lot of young black kids out there, a lot of other minority kids out there that need to get into the game. My son is a scratch golfer, and I love being a part of this world. So I do that, and then I have a big role with the PFL, the Pro Fighting League, which is on ESPN, and we're doing a lot of exciting things in 2025 as well. So between all of that, we're super busy, but I'm telling you, I've never been more fulfilled. And to still be a little bit part of the wrestling world and reconnect with buddies like you, that honestly has been the best part of all of this. And so I feel like we're starting a whole new career with all of our buddies and helping to pick each other up. Right?
Exactly.
We got to pick each other up. We got to support each other. Yeah. Otherwise, what's the point?
Otherwise, there's no point to it. Why bring each other down? It makes 100%. No sense.
So this has been awesome, and I'm serious. I'm looking forward to hearing your voice and your take coming up after the first of the year, too, for sure.
We'll do 100%.
It.
Thanks, bud.
Guys, let's talk about Mad Cat Beard Care. They make my beard feel soft, silky smooth, and they can do the same for yours. A one-man show since 2019, Mad Cat uses a portion of their sales to care for local stray cats. That money covers their medical bills and finds them safe spaces and forever homes. Their products are made to order with vitamins and all-natural oils that promote strong, healthy hair and moisturize your skin as well. They've got exclusive scents for myself, as well as other wrestlers like my good pal Brian Myers, Mr. Kennedy, and Ring of Honor legend Delirious. Make sure to check out all of their scents, along with my Swoggle scent, which has notes of lavender and sage. I absolutely love this scent. And guys, we've got an exclusive offer for listeners of Going Postl. Use promo code SWOGGLED to save yourself 15% on your orders only at madcatbeardcare.com. That is Swoggled with a D on the end to save yourself 15% on your orders at madcatbeardcare.com. Guys, that's 15% with promo code SWOGGLed. And remember, the Mad Cat makes a happy beard.
Coach, thanks, pal. Thank you very, very much for sitting down. We were literally, if you kind of watch it back the last like 5 minutes, we're both looking at the clock, and he's apologizing, and I'm like, you told me you had a hard out at an hour because you had to do other shows. And so I'm like constantly watching the clock, and he's looking at the clock, and he's apologizing. And then the last story he told, it was a really, really good story. And then like that, but it went on, and I was like, oh no, we're going to go over his time. I'm going to have to cut this immediately, like in a weird way. But it was great. It really, really was great. I'm looking forward to what he and I possibly will be doing in the future. It's going to be a lot of fun, and who knows what it'll lead to? Who knows what'll happen? All I know is I had a really, really fun time. George, hit him with the plugs.
All right, guys, as always, at Going Postl Pod on all forms of social media, at Dylan Postl on all forms of social media, youtube.com/Dylan Postl for the video version of this show. And make sure to go and check out swoggleauction.com next week, December 11th. Dylan Postl live on Whatnot. Swoggleauction.com. Get yourself a free $10 credit over at Whatnot. DylanPostl.com, ProWrestlingTees.com/Swoggle. That is all things Dylan and Dylan's merchandise. PodXchange.shop, PodXchange.shop for the exclusive merchandise store for all things PodXchange. Patreon.com/PodXchange for all of the exclusive content from this show and the Game Marks podcast, which is a podcast hosted by myself and former Creative Pro champion Johnny Clash. But on this show, Dylan likes to refer to him as
John Caruso.
And we break down a different video game each and every week. And
before I know I'm breaking you up and you're gonna hate this because now
you're good.
All befuddled. We had an amazing time last week. Having a sit down. We did a Hot Ones-esque night where we'd had some wrestling trivia, some wrestling video game trivia. We ate some spicy chicken nuggets with some Hot Ones sauce on it. Landon joined along. He ate the hot sauces. Yeah, we're going to keep doing that. And we're going to keep having fun. If you were able to join us, thank you. What if
Dylan's got an idea.
I did one where it was Muppet characters. And
we could
you
do that.
And Jonathan Caruso had to name them. I'm calling it now. I'm saying it right now. Our next hangout, our next PodXchange hangout, I'm saying it. We're going to do a Muppet quiz with, if they get it correct, I have to eat something that we picked that evening, a Bean Boozled, whatever.
Hot Ones wing.
They get it wrong. They have to. This is going to be awesome.
Well, I hope you have a little bit of energy left here because it is now time for that signature Dylan Postl sign off whenever you are ready, sir.
I'm going to the party like when my name was Abnese. Drinking in the back of an El Camino as a kid. That's a sin. I never knew it by name. I drank my own house party because nobody came. Bye, guys.